Om Shanti. This is a recording from the centre in Romford in England, and it's understanding the churning point of from a worshipper to a worthy of worship state, and how the soul actually goes from a very elevated highest point of incredible happiness, where there's no greater happiness that one can achieve, like a tip-top state of happiness, and its joy is bursting from the inner core to the outer world, and the world is displaying that happiness, where you've got happy cows and happy trees, and even the way the movement of the whole world externally looks in a complete state of unbelievable happiness. And you've got this state which you would call worthy to be worshipped, not just the people there, but the actual vibrations that are emanating from the elements of matter. So it's a natural state of magic, I suppose. I suppose you would call it the original magic of the earth, where everything is conditioned towards love, and where it's actually in a state of offering to the users that are of that world, with a, as in the elements being the server, rather than servitude, or the way people understand a servant-like consciousness. So it is trying to connect fully to that unlimited, almost like an explosive state of happiness, because the exploring and explosive, they're very much connected to what someone's done to achieve that level of happiness, and they're exploring this high state where there's nothing that can influence of an external nature, and you've achieved it in the heaviest time of humanity's existence, because you're going through the different levels of influence from them, influence from you, and the influence from you is winning. That's the only winning we need, where we connect to our true highest, most happiest states. And you need a very good imagination for that, but a imagination that's very productive, constructive, fluent, and bringing out the best of you. When we talk about teachers that bring out the best in us, and the people that bring out the best in us, and when people don't give you that this opportunity, and it's like the Supreme Being is giving out this opportunity, if you like, to connect to the highest viewpoint of yourself, the one that no one can see except him. No one can actually remind you of that, because no one knows it, and they're all working from a lower vibration.
So is that why you say that we have to imagine
yes,
the worship-worthy state?
Yes.
Because we all become worshippers.
Yeah, because we're all in bondage to what we worship, what we adore, what becomes our makeup, if you like. whatever we worship becomes part of our makeup. So rather than we choosing it, it starts to control us. And so this why is led to this obsessiveness and addiction that takes place. And it's only because there's less of a higher thought of yourself and myself, a lower thought of ourselves and myself, and we're looking for something from someone to have the highest thought. That's why people try to make their own piece of heaven on earth, isn't it? And they imagine it, you know, in their imagination, in their dream. They've got that, and it is in your dream, it is in your imagination, but it's the only one that can become a reality because you're communicating the way God sees the soul. So the problem, not problem, but the actual situation is that we're working with 5 elements that are very degraded in the lowest vibration. Even at 4 a.m. in the morning is comparatively weak. The negativity is weak, but the vibration isn't that good on comparison to that. So you've actually got to reinstate it within yourself.
I think this is completely different than what I was thinking, because I was thinking that we worship deities, or we worship whoever we believe in. But now what you just mentioned, we can worship anything and anyone, isn't it? But that has to be worthy enough for my worship.
Yes, yes.
So
it's the worship of your own.
Different meaning to it.
Yes.
Because I was thinking completely different about this topic of worshippers and
meaning.
Worship worthy. Because I was thinking only just the one point of worshippers and deities who are worship worthy. I didn't think of that we 24/7 we worship something or someone, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, always.
It doesn't have to be deity.
No.
So worship worthy means that's our aim, isn't it?
Yes, so worship worthy.
That's another aspect. I think that's very good. Yeah, worship worthy means it can be our aim, isn't it? It doesn't have to be someone.
No, it does. It's nothing coming from anyone else. It's purely coming from the self. It's being reinstated, really. And you know, when you actually think of where the path of devotion started, the path of worship started, it was when the human soul had declined in its refinement, its integrity, its dignity, and its morality, its highest state of dharma. And it chose an idol, an object in a temple. And so the object in the temple, where the temple is the centre of the forehead, where I, the being, reside. And I remember what I was, an idol in a temple, and the body's the temple. So we choose, even if we choose the oval image, which is the favourite, isn't it, which is like unadulterated devotion, where it's just one God, just one and one alone, no forms, nothing allowed except this oval image in a beautiful temple. Can be made of gold and diamonds in reverence, because it's the memorial of the body being pure with 5 elements, pure of 5 elements. So the 5 elements were basically not corrupted at all. And then to actually recapture that, you make this beautiful golden diamonds. We make this beautiful golden diamonds oval image in the temple, and we decorate the temple. And there's a lot done to the temple. As much done to the idol is done to the temple, especially in the Somnath, isn't it? Somnath temple. So I mean, camel loads of diamonds and jewels were taken away in the Muhammad Ghaznavi era, and no doubt the English took a fair share of whatever was left. So everyone's raped and looted India, haven't they? And it all takes place there, which is quite interesting, really, because you've got the most religious pujas and studying taking place in that land, and yet they come away as the male dominating the female. So you would have thought that would belong to an anti-religious country, someone that was completely irreligious, atheistic even, or agnostic, non-believers, and they would impose that. But it's like, because of devotion gives the person that feeling of humility, that's only to God, and other people they still formulate control over, because they want to be worshipped themselves or respected themselves. And if they don't get the respect, and then they force that, and then they go into their temples maybe to apologise, even to feel worthless, useless, disgusting, humble, controlled by this higher being, wants that forgiveness. And then then the power's not there to actually pass that on to wife, children. They have to live this particular life. And that gets passed down as an inheritance, really, that cultural way of thinking.
Plus another thing, if you worship something or someone, that means you can't become that.
Yes.
As well, isn't it?
Yes.
So it's always far from you, isn't it?
The word we use in England, isn't it? I step back in amazement. We used to have this saying when I was a kid. It was like someone was trying to impress you.
Yes.
So they're trying to get your energy, because that's what people do,
Yes.
trying to impress, isn't it? And when it was kind of recognised, but in a subliminal way. So if you said something that where you were trying to impress me, I'd go steps back in amazement, like this, because it was being recognised what you were doing. Kind of the psychology of it was being recognised.
So what's the difference between me being worshipper and me being worship worthy?
Yeah, well, worship worthy has an end point where you can end in a perfect state of being, because you return to that. Whereas the worshipper is always expanding. So let's say, for example, they start a business and they pour all their energy towards that business, and they're really in a state of worship to it, because it's controlling them, isn't it? So it takes up all my day, and even when I wake up in the morning, I think what I've got to do, it's in the words, what I've got to do, what I have to do, what I must achieve, what I'm going, so the ambitiousness comes in. I'm going to do that today, I'm going to achieve that, and great expectations lead to great disappointments, because it may work for a while, but karma's going to run out, it's going to walk out the door eventually, where I don't get those fruits, and things start to close in on me to stop me. Government rulings, taxation, they put the taxes up, they stop the import coming in from another country, and then all of a sudden you've got, the situation we're in now is that because man's mind has been expanding into the pleasures that he gets from devotion, because he does get a fruit from it. It's a limited fruit. Some even get visions, don't they, where they actually see the vision of Vishnu coming towards them. And as much as the mind is actually pouring its energy towards, that will be the return, because you'll always get some kind of limited fruit. And for many devotees, that's enough for them. But we're talking about the people, the majority, the rest of devotion, the rest of bhakti, which is the moment a person wakes up in the morning, they're in bondage to what they've put higher, more important than their family, friends and everything, and themselves, obviously. So they've lost themselves to what they worship. And then that becomes a dominant feature, doesn't it? So I'll be controlled by that. I'll feel the pressure, and then I'll come home and take that out on you. Because it's not all...
So worshipping is not good.
Well, no, it's necessary at the right time. It's necessary because I need.
It's necessary to understand the worship worthy form.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that what?
yeah. It's like eating a bar of chocolate, isn't it? You get a great deal of pleasure from it. If someone was to say to you, "It's no good for you," you know that, but you do get pleasure from it. So eventually, you will just eat a bar of chocolate because it gives that pleasure, even though you know there's no nutritional value. It's a pleasure stick or a pleasure bar, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And you know you'll do that because it gives you something. So as long as you're getting something from that, that satisfies you. But until our own coffers are empty. So I've actually sold my virtues, my energy for that. So basically, the more I'm investing in those things, the more I'm emptying myself of the powers that I've got inside of me.
Okay, so that means the worship is necessary.
Yes.
for
I'll
me-
become impatient,
for
but I'll
me to-
justify it, won't I?
Mm.
No, if the end outweighs, it's a means to an end, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if the end outweighs the actual thing that I'm doing, you'll say, well, he's under stress, he's under duress, he was impatient, he was angry at me, but it was a big business deal. Or it was important that we did that pilgrimage, even. Otherwise, there's no reverence. We're not showing reverence. We're not showing respect. It's important. So if we get a little bit impatient and tired along the way, it seems worth it, doesn't it? Because we actually satisfied us on the accomplishment of the journey, even it might be up the top of the mountain in the state of Amarnath, isn't it? Right at the top. And so you actually, the achievement feels worth it. So when the achievement no longer, it's like your heart is no longer in that, then that's your time. Up till then, a person would keep doing that because they're getting something.
So what is
From
worship worthy state?
A worship worthy state
Is it
is...
possible at this time to become worship worthy?
Yeah, because you're actually attuning yourself to a stronger connection with your original form and taking the time away and the energy away. So you're having disinterest. You couldn't do it with intense interest in those things.
I think I understood now.
Yeah.
So you start with worship and you go somewhere, and then on the way you understand that this is not what I'm looking for.
Yes.
You keep justifying until...
And your interest is there.
Yeah. Yes.
Can be a deep interest.
And then the end result of the worship is you found that nothing is outside.
Yeah, it didn't seem so much worth
So
it.
much worth
And you might do that for another 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Because your interest will dwindle and it's bringing you to a state of where you actually need something else to replenish and your interest has to go somewhere else. And it might even get diverted to something else. It might be a person that we're involved with, you know, the affairs of the heart, and we get connected and find soulmates around us and we invest our energy in this close bond. So that's also a form of worship because
Exactly, yes. So
yes,
anything and
it's
anyone,
adoration.
yeah.
Yeah, it's adoration. Adoration of anything is a state of worshipper.
So and when once we found out nothing is outside, then we start going
Yes, I had to
within.
go through those
And
things.
what you mentioned in the beginning, we have to imagine our perfect form,
Yes, yeah,
isn't it?
yes. And because it's becoming more adulterated as births go on, because it's been happening over many births, where I've lost a worthy of worship state to a worshipper state, it has to go from a subtle God, deities, subtle deities, scriptures, people, and you have to still go, and still we mix the two up, even though we know that I've got to bring all the affairs of my heart into an adoration and a powerful imagination of my perfect, most highest state, and start communicating with, to and from that.
So it is me who become worshipper, and worshipper.
Yes, it's all going on inside.
Yeah.
It looks like it's going on
Yes,
outside.
yes.
It's a good point.
Isn't it?
Very good point. Yeah, that's your world, that's my world. And if they bond together, then we might form the same. We might be in the same religion, same belief system, and there's a bond that takes place. And I could either be worshipping that and you at the same time because of your affection and adoration towards the cause. You know, and we don't really know. There's no real aim and object in the cause, because it's not actually taking me to the highest point of all. I'm just looking to be the very best devotee that I can be, just like a wife is looking for the very best devotee she can be to her husband. That's the culture, isn't it? I don't know if the husbands nowadays feel the same as the wife. They might have their business in their sights.
But I think that's the belief worldwide, isn't it? That we can't be worship-worthy, isn't it? That's impossible.
Yes, yes.
So worshippers, I think that's people will believe, yeah, we are worshippers, but no one will believe
No,
that
no.
we are the worship-worthy as well.
But then they'd have to ask themselves the question, well, where did it come from? All my energies actually being, was it just because my mother and father and grandmother and grandfather actually taught that?
Back?
Yeah, or did it actually start? I mean, because in a family even you get people that are kind of addicted to the temple and must do all the devotional, all the pujas, and you get people that are dragging their heels in it that aren't really. The interest is waning a lot, and they say, well, I do it because my mum, dad, granddad, grandmother, we all came here. And very often when you ask a devotee what makes you do that, they don't really give a very good answer. They say, well, everyone else does that. And that's the lemming culture again, isn't it? I follow you and I don't know why, or you follow me and you don't know why. There's no intellect working. And there isn't really until the Supreme Being intervenes and said, this is what you bought the elephant, you've now got to feed it, and you've got to have the interest to feed it, to keep it alive. And we're actually keeping it alive. But we probably think it's keeping us alive. That's a strange one, isn't it?
Yes.
There is a power shift where we think it's giving us the power, because they talk about money being purchasing power. But if it wasn't for your good karma, would the money be there in the first place? If it wasn't for your charitable ways?
Yes.
And that's what people are finding, isn't it? It looks like the power that was in their purse and their wallets and their bank accounts isn't there, but there was never any power there. It was all delivered from our interest, our belief system, our faith in that, and it's constantly giving us what we need. And that's why they say money can buy happiness. And the Beatles sing, money can't buy love, can't buy me love. And yet people do believe that they can spoil and cherish and, nurture that, and eventually they'll love them. But if they don't, they don't. If they do, they do. But it's got nothing to do with the spoils, really.
So I understand the journey from worshipper to worship-worthy. So if it's me, both the stages of me.
Both playing a role,
So
same
how
role.
do I go from worship-worthy to worshipper back?
Do you mean from worshipper to worthy of worship?
So you explain that. So
Right.
we start the journey of worship, and then eventually we realize that it's nothing outside which I can worship and be happy. It's inside, and it's me. And then I become worship worthy the more I go introvert. So then I become worship worthy.
Yeah, but worthy of worship goes from the most lowest form of worshipper naturally. So there's nothing to do for that really, because that's the process of the devolution
But do
of
I not have to
humanity.
do the worship for long enough for me to realize that it's me who I'm worshipping, not anyone or anything else outside?
Yeah, you'd have to get it out of your system, which is
Isn't
what
it?
we
So
do.
it is a journey, and then
It is, yeah.
eventually I become, or I
Yeah.
feel that I'm worthy of worship,
Yes.
and it's me, it's no one else.
No, it's not.
So,
Someone would come along and offer something which is more gross for you to worship when you're less gross, and you wouldn't be inclined to do that. They might say, "Why don't you start a business?" And you say, "Well, no, I've got enough. Enough is a feast, and I like we might even call it spirituality. I like my religious code of conduct. I enjoy that. I spend a lot of time at the temples, and it's seemingly a lot from your meditation. But remember, everything you're getting from yourself, not from some idol or some deity or some angel. You're actually getting it from yourself. So you're using your energy, and while you're using your energy, you're actually losing and having less and less interest over 100 years. So in your next life you might be inclined to say, I'd like to spend more time with my business and my family more than I did in the temple. And then if that person had come along there with the influence, you would have bought into it because it's expanding.
okay, and how do I become worshipper again from that to... So I had my journey from worshipper
From
to...
worthy of worship, because the
No,
worthy
I
of
think
worship...
we went from worshipper to worthy of worship. So
Yeah.
I need to come back to worshipper. How did I become worshipper?
Because of the actual, we used the energy of our stored good karma, pure karma. So we became like images of the Supreme Being, all virtuous. And then we only did so much effort to create that state, so we enjoy the fruits of that over thousands of years. So you're actually enjoying your virtues. The worthy of worship state is half the cycle.
That's what
From
I
the
was just about to say.
Yeah, all
That's
right. Telepathy. Golden and silver. And then the copper age, we actually have lost that fruit. So we've only done so much effort to achieve that. There's no negative effects on the earth. So it's not like a big drain on the battery, but it is being used. So in this world, because there's a big drain going on, you can walk out and have an altercation with someone in no time. And then, and they might come away from that and it might stay on my mind, and that person seems to go off without, like a carefree emperor who doesn't care about anyone and nothing bothers them, and they just said the nastiest things. And that's what we got caught up in, is that we lost the power to our whatever we were devoted to in that journey.
So half the cycle I become...
And there's no negative influences. That's the point, isn't it?
So I'm worthy of worship for half a cycle, and then half
Yes.
a cycle I struggle
So
being a worshipper.
It's a very slow trickle discharge, an extremely, extremely slow trickle discharge. Like you get batteries that trickle charge. This is a trickle discharge. So there's nothing of lust, anger, ego, greed, attachment. No one comes up with me with desire in their eyes. So there's no pull from them, there's no pull from me. There's pure love going on between, because we're a royal family. That's the feeling. It's both are as equal as the other. Royal family, royal. We are the original royal family of the earth, because we've achieved that. And so I'm not training you, you're not training me. But when the duality steps in, we start to worship another form in a different way. And because of that form, the soul starts to become deformed, if you like, because its form has changed. And so we have to have something to worship to make us feel better, because we're connecting to something spiritual, something of a religious order. And your mind is very good with concentration. So when you're able to put God's image, which is a memory of yourself and Baba, when you put him in the temple, your concentration is 100% focused. You know, your mind doesn't wander at all. You're just immersed in love. So you go home and you look after your family without any attachment. You know, it's such a, because of the heart is filled with that, it's your own love. It's your own concentration, but you're actually using something to concentrate to experience your love, your own love, not God's love. He's hiding away. He's done his job. He's not doing anything. But that's important, that your memory comes back of a relationship at that time with the source of love. And people just can't imagine that they sit for half an hour, even an hour, 2 hours, or even 5 minutes, and people's mind will wander around, and they can't imagine even the Copper Age state of concentration. But that is extremely joyful, super sensuous, because your concentration on your pure heart, but through the medium of God's oval light image. So you're actually connecting with yourself through that medium, like that. And we all do it. We're all sitting there. We're all enjoying, and we're all segregated without being separated. Can you imagine that? Separate. We don't need to be separated because we're not after each other like that. We've got a heart full of love. We play a role of looking after our family, not like we do today. That's a complete bondage of devotion to sons, daughters, children. You can see the mess. You know, they're trying to save, if they can't give something to their grandchildren that they expect, or their children that are expectant of them, they feel like they're bad. They're no good. You see how much control it's given, but it started in a very pure, unadulterated way. So worshipper is a nice journey until you've had enough.
Yeah, because it can't be continued, because it's not real, it's not me.
It's exhausting
isn't it?
eventually.
Because I'm moving away from
you.
myself.
Yeah,
isn't
that's
it?
right. That's right.
So and then although it might feel good along the way, but still inside my heart I'm not enjoying the worship
No.
anymore, because
Once your interest is
moving
not being
away.
generated, and you need energy to generate, don't you, to have interest. It's not just that I'm interested in something, and energy comes from somewhere to be interested. You know, if someone might say, well, I'll try, I might be interested, but they still need the energy to have an interest. And when you haven't got that energy ready to, because you feel discharged, because the soul conscious energy has gone into the body conscious energy. It's still there. It's the yin and the yang, isn't it? It's still there, but it's actually been taking my energy rather than giving me energy, because the soul's eternal. So not at any one point do we ever lose any energy. Really, it just changes, shifts from one state to another.
So the truth is, I cannot worship anyone or anything except myself.
Yeah, that is the good point. In reality, but we think
we think
we are. Yeah, but it's just something that's symbolic of something that's inside
So I
yourself.
might see one of my qualities in you and start worshipping you, but it's not you, it's me.
Yeah, it never was me. Yeah, I mean, you probably know better yourself. You know, what does Jakadamba symbolise to a person? What does Christ symbolise? You can relate to all the triggers that are inside of you. Jakadamba, Saraswati, Shitla, the goddess of coolness. You know, even Kali, the way she destroys the destroyer.
I think now we don't have any power to get closer to myself. So can you give us more ideas, or how to come more closer and with God's help.
Yeah, yeah.
Because it's me, isn't it? But it's hard to accept that it's me.
Mm. Yeah, well, it's kind of putting your faith in the medium, really, of where Brahma Baba came in, because Brahma Baba is the one that was able to mimic God's qualities in the physical world. And we're a chip off the old block, if you like, so we're actually just copying, and the way we copy is to ask ourselves, how would Brahma Baba, the human medium for God's spirituality, God's divine way, he brought into action, didn't he? Because in God's world it's thought, it's feeling and a thought, but the word and the action are in this Brahma. He actually mastered that, how to bring it into. So you're not really actually trying to go through an encyclopedia of different ways. You're just saying to yourself, how would Brahma Baba have done that? And because Brahma Baba is neither here nor there, and I mean he's neither here on this planet now, nor is he in the soul world. He hasn't gone home, because all souls have to go home at the end of the drama together. He's in the intermediate place, so he can actually connect to us. That's the mother and father. So the mother is Brahma Baba, and you would actually be relating to what would Brahma Baba do in this situation, because the eye after 2,500 years of devotion, the eye is quite sour, that I use from day to day. What shall I do? How shall I deal with my mother in this situation? What decisions should I make? Should I leave? Should I stay? And then you just say, well, what would Brahma Baba do? And you try to get your mind blank. So normally the eye actually creates a big mist and fog and jungle of thoughts, of the choices that you can make. And if there's more than one choice, it's the wrong choice, because I've just got to copy the mother.
How would I know that I'm copying?
It will come at the right time. You don't make you don't make an impulsive action. You don't make an impulsive decision before you allow it to emerge. So you're not actually trying to think to make it happen, because that's confusing.
Okay.
Because you've got so many opinions, haven't
you
you?
don't have any power to make any decision right now.
Yeah, that's a good way of seeing it.
Yeah.
I don't have any power. This is godly power that I'm using.
So I have to allow, like you said, to keep my mind blank.
You've got other people's opinions as well, haven't you? They think they know best as well. So they'll be depositing their tuppence worth or 2 rupees worth. And then you've got to actually, is this best, is that best? And that's probably why we took on gurus and guides and counsellors, because we were trying to make the right decision.
Yeah.
And really, in the world of drama and karma, in the material world, there is no right or wrong, because it might end up devastating, it might end up well. If it ends up well, we think we did well. We think we made the right decision. If it ends up devastating, it might have been the actual right thing for you to do, but it ended up devastating because it has that effect according to the drama. If someone does a particular thing that's good for someone, it isn't necessarily good for everyone else, is it? So the rights and wrongs, we've got to be detached from good and bad and right and wrong and all that, and just copy.
And is this the process to become worship worthy again?
Yeah, because he's that, isn't he? He got the least. People laughed at him, people abused him, people accused him. It's obvious he had it right.
So basically we are just changing our characteristic, isn't it?
Yeah.
That
A way of doing it, a different way of doing it. Yeah.
And the attitude.
Yes. It's more about being than it is doing, isn't it? Because the actual doing doesn't really matter. but the actual connection does matter. That I connect. That's the solution to it all. Whatever comes, you're not really that bothered. It's just a situation. But people have given importance to situations because that's devotion. That's worship of it. So it becomes so important for them to sort that out, and they're the minority. That's the majority. It's the wrong order, isn't it? That's not your highest self. Your highest self is right up there above everything that needs to be sorted down here, easily so. Different world altogether. Different. You're in a different league. When they have these different leagues, you're in the Premier League. And yet we look on that as the Premier, and we look on us as like 4th division.
Yes.
And it's completely opposite of that.
And this is why we need God, isn't it? Because we don't know. I don't know my purest state, so I need to look upon God and look at His pure state, because I'm His child.
Yes.
And then, because that's the only way, isn't it? I think that's where the God.
That's right.
God's role is, isn't it? He's just showing us who we are. That's all He's doing, isn't it?
Well, I mean, even if I've got a lot of treasures inside, and you've got the key to the treasure chest, the treasure box, I still need you for the key, don't I? And God gives us the key.
Because I lost myself, so only way to find myself is God, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. That's a nice way as well, because this is more of your rights over as a child, as an elevated child. These are more of your rights rather than. He doesn't see us as the needy asking devotee. No, he doesn't say that. No, no, he doesn't say. He just. I mean, I don't know. How would you see if you had 2 or 3 children, and they were always at your feet, and you would feel that you never get a true answer from them, because they're so much in adoration of you, and you'd say, well, your worth. What about your worth? Never mind about me for a while. Take 2 minutes out for yourself. What about you? And you would want them to see, if you're getting so much. But we don't often change chairs with God. We very often keep the same chair and think what we should do, what we've been told to do, is worship and show reverence. But how would He feel? How would we feel if we were in that situation? And we had these, I don't know how many theists, how many God believers there are. There's a lot more believers when a war takes place. But I don't know how many believers there are on earth. But imagine all those in reverence to Him, and respect and regard and love, and all wanting God to be on their side and asking God, and you'd be thinking to yourself, they've got me all wrong. As a mother, as a father figure, you would be feeling they've got me all wrong. If only, if only, if only. But He knows the drama. He knows the way it's supposed to play out. So He knows that you'll get to your own point of, basically, I've lost interest in showing interest. And I suppose someone in the worldly sense would be saying to you, you've got no interest in anything. I don't know where we're going with this, because how can I even go out anywhere with you? You've got no interest. Retail therapy, you have no interest in that. I take you to the zoo, take you to the fun fair, take you on the world cruise, and you've got no interest. What's the matter with you? You're mad? Because they're actually looking for that interest, because they bond with it. Oh, look at this. Look, have you seen? Like this. And you think, no, don't show me any pictures. Isn't it? Throw the cameras away.
Can you give us a meditation point
Yeah.
I think the only way is the remembering Baba.
It's just belonging, that sense of belonging throughout the day. If you can belong to Baba in a stronger way than you did yesterday, and tomorrow in a stronger way than you did today, then your past, present and future is being decorated. It is all a sense of whatever you belong to, that's what you become the same form of, which is true of worship as well. Is whatever we worshipped, we became that form. Okay. So turning within, bringing God's companionship with me in the here and now, feeling the self to be combined with the Supreme Being, our closest, nearest and dearest, most truest friend of the human soul. And let there be the awareness that everything can be done through yourself, by God. I give over the reins of my role, and He takes all the burden away from me. He moves me, helps me think, helps me talk, supports me all the time. And whenever a situation comes in front, I am always and also allowing God's magic, the Karan Karavanha Father, to work through me. My achievement, my ability, my success is really all about feeling that I belong to one and one alone, letting go of the feelings of neediness, of belonging to anyone else. I love one, I call, invoke one. He plays my role through me, and I sit and I observe and I enjoy the role that he plays. Om Shanti.